Second question then is, currently the Hopkins School District receives only 85% of the 68% it is promised from the state for regular special education funding. This shifts additional costs to our local school district. Each year, the state reimbursement percentage is decreasing, and the local contribution for special education is increasing to almost 50%. As you look ahead to representing the Hopkins School District at the legislature, what would you do to support full state funding for our students with disabilities? And we'll start with Representative Anderson.
Thank you. Well, when it comes to this issue, it's not just the state not providing their share of the special education revenue, it's also the federal government. They haven't put up their amount of money that they have committed all of us to pay for special education needs. I'm very concerned about it because we are seeing more and more students that are have special education needs, and that might be a situation of that we're able to identify these children early on and get them the help that they need so that they're successful later on in life. So as far as helping them and making sure that we have that funding, it's about looking at our state budget overall and setting priorities. For me, education is a priority. Now, we do a lot of good things in the state of Minnesota, but we have hit an economic downturn where we really need to closely analyze how we're spending tax dollars. And that means that we need to go to a zero-based budgeting system where every program has to go through thorough review to see if it meets the current needs and serves the purposes that it originally was set out to serve. And then, set our priorities based on that and fund what we can fund, and what we can't, then we need to analyze and see what else we can do. So I think that's what's going to be key in making sure that we provide the funding that we need for special education.
Thank you. Ms. Dillon.
Well, when I had the opportunity, since you mailed these to us in advance, and the question kind of finishes, how do you secure the funding for the special education students? And I thought, well, we should be securing the funding for all autonomy to the local school boards.
Thank you. Senator Bowman.
Yes, well, in this particular case, I don't see it that way because actually, with regard to special education, there's the federal law that says we must serve every student with disabilities. It's called the IDEA Act. And the way that we fund special ed is really on a cost basis. So this is one of the formulas that is meant to be good for the school districts because it is tough to provide the services for some of those students who are as challenged. And so we are supposed to actually give them the money that they spend on this because they have to hire specifically trained personnel. The problem has been we don't give them that money. There's what's called a gap between what they spend and what we give them, as well as the federal government is the real culprit because they aren't giving what they promise. And so if we said, well, okay, the answer is mandate relief. Mandate relief about what? Saying you don't have to serve these kids with special ed? This is not a mandate relief issue. This is a problem that we need to fulfill our promise to our children, to every child. Whether you're a child with disability or whether you're a superstar. With No Child Left Behind and the way that they measured students and then compared them to the next year's students, it actually pitted parents against parents. Those parents of special ed students felt terrible because they may have been the parent of the one student that caused a school to be a non-performing school or an AYP school. So that's not okay. That's not how we ought to look at it. We ought to, and this is part of another discussion, but we really ought to be testing students about are they making progress, and then giving the teachers the tools and the resources to make certain they can impact the progress of each and every child, whether they're a child with a disability or they're a child and gifted and talented or they're somewhere in the middle and falling through the cracks.
Thank you.
Well, again, this issue concerning continuous progress or children coming into my classroom, there ought to be some improvement in their skills development, knowledge development from the day they come into my classroom until the next spring when they leave. That was another item that was in the education bill that was blocked, unfortunately, by the other side in the Minnesota House, so that we were not able to get that through. Every child, we have decided as a society, should receive the educational supports that they need. Years ago, 20, 30, 40 years ago, children with special needs were simply shunted aside. All right, if we're going to now do what we ought to have done from the very beginning to support and help these children, it costs money, ladies and gentlemen, because it is very expensive to do one-on-one therapy and all the other supports that are needed. I'm in favor of it. I support Minnesota Miracle 2, which can be scaled up as we get the resources. I'm ashamed to say that the state of Minnesota has been failing our kids in these last few years. The shift that we imposed was actually a rescue of the money. Governor Pawlenty line itemed that out. And if the legislature had not come and at least put it into a shift, that money would have been gone. $1.7 billion would have been gone from the public schools forever. So you have to face the reality that if we want these supports for kids, and they should get them, they cost money, and we have to fund the resources to provide it.
Thank you. Mr. Grogan.
Special education is a classic example of government getting involved as if they're in a candy store. Let's overcommit and underprovide. They set up laws in special education that we cannot provide, and we're incapable of providing. And I'm surprised that Representative Benson thinks that we ought to go into psychotherapy within our schools. We don't have the money to do this. We don't have the money to do this. He also talks about the opposing sides. If he's going to start attacking Republicans, I'll start attacking Democrats. Let's do it. Graduation standards. The Democrats refuse to pass them. We have the largest achievement gap in the state, in the nation. More blacks are failing, more Hispanics are failing, and more American Indians are failing, but Democrats will not pass graduation standards. Why not? Because it's the unions. The unions don't want it. What about accountability standards? Will they pass accountability standards? Democrats will not pass it. Whenever they've been given a chance in QCOM, the Minnesota Miracle, it's elimination of accountability standards. Take them out. Make sure they're not in there. You had the audacity to say that, oh, we'll renegotiate that back in. I don't believe them. Okay? They truly don't want accountability standards in our unions. We don't want graduation standards in our unions. We just want to keep funding, keep funding, keep funding, keep funding, keep funding, which we've been doing for 50 years at a time when we were world-class education, and today we're second-tier education. Special education, whatever that may be, it's all about reform. It's mandate reform, it's unfunded mandates reform, it's about truly getting at the problems we have in delivering education. It isn't about money anymore. We are overextended, we are overcommitted, and we are underperforming in all aspects of it.
Thank you. Ms. Britton.